Hey Amazon sellers, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about a topic that a lot of Amazon sellers do not want to hear, but they desperately need to hear it. More SKUs does not automatically mean more growth. In fact, some of the most weakest Amazon accounts are the ones that have the biggest catalogs. And I've been talking to brands with 15, 20, 30,000 different SKUs, and they're struggling to stay profitable month over month. And at the same time, I've seen some brands that are doing amazing, outperforming those brands that have way less SKUs and way lower catalogs. So this video, I'm going to talk about why big catalogs typically fail and run you through some case studies that literally prove that point exactly. So let's get into it. Let's get to point number one. Why do sellers believe big catalogs means big growth? So most sellers believe that if they just build a big enough catalog, they're gonna get more sales because it means more keywords, more visibility, and there's a higher chance of people actually purchasing their products. But in reality, when you have more SKUs, this means more complexity. So you're gonna have to take a lot more of your time looking through bids, reports, tweaking it, fixing up some things with like all these different products where it's just going to eat up your time and your effort. So when you have more products, why does that mean less control? So typically when you have a lot more products, this means you have also a lot more demand and a lot more things to control. If you don't have a system in place that can do this for you, then it's going to be a lot of pain doing it. That's why when you set up really big catalogs, you almost always need some type of system or some type of automation that can help you do this. Because if you don't have the right structure or some type of automated way to do this for you, then you're gonna have a lot of trouble including with your budgets, with your products, and in order to scale, it's gonna feel more risky rather than feeling good because you're growing. So let me show you a real example of something that completely proves this exact point. So we worked with this brand called GOODONYA. They are a brand in the household space, and this category is super hard on Amazon because there's a bunch of different brands in the space competing against each other, strong advertisers, and the CPCs are super high. So here's what made GOODONYA a lot different. They only had 3 SKUs, and with those 3 SKUs, they have generated $2.3 million in revenue, and they achieved an 87% year-to-year growth and an ACUS of literally 13%. And that alone challenges the idea that more products does not always mean more growth. Before working with AiHello, GOODONYA wasn't failing, but they were completely stuck. They were barely making any sales, and their profit was like barely anything because their margins were so tight. And when they would push harder with ads, it would just be so hard to scale. Like they would not make more money. So after a few account audits we have done, we've noticed a few different issues. First of all, their brand messaging was super off. Their ad spend wasn't tightly aligned with their profit, and they were also paying for very broad audience. So their targeting was very off, and they were just paying for a bunch of irrelevant clicks. And none of these problems were dramatic, but altogether they created a huge ceiling of just like issues, and that's what completely slowed down and made them stop. You know, it made it so expensive for them to scale, made it so expensive for them to grow, and it really was like a weight on their business. So the goal with helping them was not aggressive scaling, but rather getting control. So we had to clean up their entire campaign structure so then we could see what are the real issues. And then after we could clearly read their performance, we first fixed their targeting. So we made sure it's not too broad and it's not targeting everybody, but only specific groups who are paying for the right people. And then we made sure that unauthorized sellers were completely removed, and so that ad spend was actually being profitable. More importantly, we built the system so it could support growth, not just chaos and bring a bunch of different people onto their page all the time and for them to be paying for a bunch of irrelevant clicks. And this is where a lot of big catalogs struggle because they have a bunch of different products, and little do they know a lot of these products are just getting a bunch of broad people coming in and they're paying for a lot of irrelevant traffic. And with that, GOODONYA fixed their structure first. We also did some automation for them so that we could also make this very efficient on their side as well. So we used AiHello's hybrid model to make sure that their performance was always changing and it's always updating based on real-time events. Like for example, bids, competitors coming to the market. We were always making sure that the bids were changing. We're always making sure keywords were properly changing. We're always making sure that their listing was staying up to date with the entire market. And with them only having 3 SKUs, it was a lot more easier to just put attention and clearly focus on the performance and make proper changes when you could see everything clearly because there's only 3 SKUs. So that was one thing we also really nailed because there was not that many, so we didn't get confused, we didn't get mixed up, we didn't spend our attention thing, but rather put our focus on these 3 SKUs only, and we made this the most profitable thing ever. And after all those changes, results literally speak for themselves. We got them $2.3 million in revenue with an 87% sales growth year over year and a 14% ACOS with over 70,000 units sold. So for sellers out there who are still working with 22,000 SKUs, one thing you guys should learn that more SKUs does not mean that you're going to get more sales, but instead it's going to mean you're going to have a lot more complexities, you're going to have a lot more things to deal with, and it's going to be you're going to be putting in a lot more effort in your time rather than just like staying focused and working with only 3, 4, 5 products that you could fully scale and you don't feel burned out after working with all of these. So selling on Amazon is not about volume anymore. It's more about just, being clear on everything, making sure everything is automated, making sure that everything is very efficient on your site. So you're not putting so much time and you can focus on your business instead. So make sure you always fix your structure before you start pushing spend. A lot of Amazon sellers love to throw in a lot of money onto their ads when their structure is not properly established, which makes them waste a lot of money, and it's going to be a whole disaster. So when your system is strong, then you could scale it. Do the same type of strategy that GOODONYA did, and I literally proved it to you through this short video explaining exactly on the changes we made, exactly on how we got them to these results where they are now. So I look forward to seeing my next video. I'll see you then.